Turn it up.
Hi, Tom Andreas here, back today to work with you on graphics. And so what I want to do is just go over what I've got done so far. I've got a plaque that we're going to work with 12 inches by 12 inches. I have the material thickness set at 3/4 of an inch, and the XY origin is in the center, just like it's supposed to be. Make sure that it's in the center by verifying that you've got sort of that scope look where you're looking through the crosshairs of a scope. And so I'll go ahead and set that at OK. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I've got to go and get some images. And so what I want to do is go and type in this case, deer silhouette. A couple of things about picking images. Number one, this word silhouette is very helpful because it makes it black and white. And when you're working with a CNC carver, remember that you can either carve or not carve. And so black and white tends to work quite nicely. If you use an image that is color or multiple colors, you get into some other issues that we'll talk about later. But first of all, we'll talk about just how to do the black and white images. And so I went ahead and selected this one. And if you just right click on it and do save image as, I saved it as deer and girl and put it in the proper location, and so I'm just going to cancel that because I already have it done. And so to put an image in, you have to do import bitmap for tracing, and so in this case I will pick up the deer and girl image, and there it is. I like to resize it so I know kind of what's going on here as far as vectors. So now you can see that this image isn't perfect. It's got some light and some dark areas in it. And it will be just a little bit hard to carve right in this area right here. But we're going to go ahead and work with this and just see as kind of a learning tool how this is going to work out. So to begin the process of turning this into vectors, we click on the little bird symbol. And so the first thing that we want to do is as we trace it, which means to vectorize it or turn this image into vectors that we can cut, is since it's a silhouette, we're going to click it to black and white. And that's going to give us some pretty cool functionality where we can make it more dark or less dark. And the threshold is, you know, kind of at what point does this thing fill in and become perfectly black. If you look at the deer, we kind of want to get rid of, see how the spots show up kind of like it's almost like stars. We want to get rid of those because we don't want to carve those little dots out. And so I've kind of got it now. You can see there's still a few spots right here. I'm going to get rid of those by sliding just a little bit more on this bar. I think I can even darken it just a little bit right here and get rid of this spot. And so at this point, then we'll move down and deal with corner fit. Now, the smoothest vectors are going to come from corners that are loose, and we have to have 10 pixels to clear up any of the dots. So those dots would have to make 10 together before it would try to fit a vector around them. So now I'll just do fit vector, and you can see that it did a pretty nice job of fitting those vectors. So let me close that for just a moment. And I'm going to click on the graphic and throw it aside and see what we came up with. And it's pretty neat. Some of the stuff that we might not want to have in here is this stuff right here. And so remember, if I pull from left to right, I can select just those pieces without getting these other vectors. But if I went from right to left, you can see I would get it all. So now you see the power of that tool. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those vectors and clean it up. I also think that I might want to get rid of some of these right here. It's okay to have some, but not too much. And so maybe that will be just a little bit more clean. Now you can get rid of these things here. Let's get rid of that. But if we go to node edit mode right here, I think we would want to delete this span here and delete this span here. And then we could just delete all of that. So we'll delete that and delete that. And remember, now at this point, I can't join it, but I can close it. And so I can close it with a smooth curve. And so now you can see that we're ready to go. Now, I just did that for demonstrations. If I were doing this, I probably would get rid of the ones on the deer feet as well. To select it and do a test carve and see what this is going to look like, let's go ahead and pick up our tool, and I'm going to have a start depth of 0. That's correct. A flat depth. We're going to carve out 2/10 of an inch. The 60-degree bit is selected, and I can calculate. And so there's what it looks like as far as where the point of the tool path is. And so at this point I can preview it, and it's cutting it out in the order that it would want that to work out. And so now I can close it, and it does a pretty good job of pulling that out. Now, if I wanted to reverse this, what I would do is I'll just go ahead and reselect this all, and if I wanted to reverse this so that the deer and the girl were up, I simply could put a vector around it, and I would be able, I'll close that. Now I would be able to leave the deer and the girl up, which makes it pretty neat when you want to go ahead and paint and create a situation where you can actually paint on top of the girl. And I've got to reset the preview in this case, but paint on top of the girl and paint on top of the deer. And so you can see the order at which the machine would cut this out. Now, it's going to take quite a little bit longer to do a carve like this because of the amount of real estate that has to be cleared by that very small bit. So just a few things to keep in mind. Okay, so the next type of image that we can work with is something that looks more like a painting. And then we'll finish up with an actual real-life photograph. So I want to illustrate some of the issues that are problematic and some of the things that are that will help you make things easier. But when you look at these images, always take a look at the resolution of the image. The higher the resolution of this image, the better off you're going to be. And we really don't want to be much smaller than 300. It starts to get awfully grainy. Now, I've already saved this image as deer painting. So I'm going to go, I've got to first go import it. And this is a wild deer painting, and so I will resize it just so that we can work a little bit better with it. So now at this point I will fit vectors to bitmap, and you can see that if we use black and white, we can fit vectors to bitmap, and so it would work actually quite nicely right there just to black everything out. Now you would have a little bit of trouble right here. It may vectorize that, and we can go ahead and try to vectorize it. So it worked out quite nicely because it and I can just close this. You can see that it fit the vectors around it when we used black and white. Now you might want to go around with this eye again and just trace that. A couple of ways to do that. One might be that we pick up this tool, and we might want to just come in, and I'm just clicking as I go around to fit this. And when it gets tight, you have to kind of err on the side of having a few more clicks. And so then you could node edit this, and you can make adjustments, any adjustments that you would need, and smooth this down and move nodes and points around until it was just exactly as you wanted it. So that's one way to go ahead and vectorize this. And so I will go ahead though at this point, and I want to go ahead and carve this. So let me throw this image out of the way for a moment, select it, make a carve, close right there, open up carve, calculate. And now I've got to reset the preview and go ahead and preview. So we can see that that might not actually work out very well, but you will have to play with this to see what makes it work good and what makes it work poorly. And so just a couple things to know as we do that about this when we observe how it actually worked out and how we thought it was going to work out might be very different. So let's come back to this vector, and it might work better actually if it were carved out. We would need to put the other eye in here to make it look right. It might look a lot better. But at this point, what I want to do is let's just go ahead and delete that vector because I want to pull this back in, and let's apply some different settings. So if I go back to the bird and I switch it to color, you can see that there are lots and lots of different colors here. And so what I would do is pick the colors that I want to vectorize. And you can see that the color that I've picked, which is the dark brown, that color then shows up as red. And so let's say that I wanted to kind of pick the horns, and it's got the hooves. That would be actually kind of interesting looking. But let me just continue turning colors on that I want to vectorize, or in this case, vectorize means to go ahead and put the lines around it. So let me just see what that's going to do as I fit the vectors to it. Okay, so now you can see how that's going to look and how that's going to trace. So if you've got something that you want to do that has multiple colors in it, you're going to have to come in here and take a look at that. Now you can go back with colors there. You can reset the number of colors that you want to pick, and so it gets to be pretty neat. What the program does is to try to average a bunch of these colors together and figure out an area that it can select and capture for vectorization. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we'll carve it, and you should be able to see. I'll close this, pick up the carver, calculate, calculate, trying to do too many things at once here, and reset preview and preview. So you can kind of see now that deer come out. Now its eyes look a whole lot better in this image, and so you'll have to play with the image controls as you go in and vectorize it. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and close this and clear all of this, and I'm going to delete this, delete the image, and I need to come back over and pick up, let's say that we were going to vectorize something like this. And so let me go ahead and save image as, and we'll just deer in the brush, save. So I've got that ready to go. I can pick up deer in the brush, and let's go ahead and work with what really now is a photographic image. And so I will come in here, and now I can work once again with my various vectors, and I can pick up whichever one of those vectors I want to work with, or not vectors, but the colors. Now you can see that this is not something that I want. And so now we're going to have to be very careful about which ones we turn on and which ones we turn off. In other words, that makes it worse. So I don't want that one. I'll take that one. I'll take that one. No, don't want that one. I'll turn it back off. Nope, don't want that one. Do not want that one. Do not want that one. Nope. No. And no. So that is getting to be kind of what it looks like, and you can kind of see that it gets to be a little bit tricky to turn on and pick up specific outlines to either carve the image down in the wood, or relief carve it where the image is actually up on the wood. And so you'll have to kind of play around with those image controls and figure out which ones it likes. And let me go over the difference between loose, corner fit, and tight corner fit. And so let me set it over here on corner fit to tight, and make it so that it will put a vector around every single pixel. So I'll hit fit vectors. And so let me close this, and you can see the difference between a loose fit and a tight fit. And so the corners are square. They're almost geometric looking. And that is definitely not the type of image that is going to, or the type of vector system that is going to carve at all and produce satisfactory results. So what I want to do, again, I'm just going to Control Z that, and so I'll select this for vectorization, and let's just simply change the difference between loose and noise and fit vectors. And you can see it's, even though there still is some of that geometry going on in there, it has worked to smooth things out considerably. So in any case, there is a lot there for you to play with. Keep in mind that you're wanting those high resolution images, and keep in mind that silhouettes are going to work the best if you can find a silhouette that you like. Trying to come in, if you can't find exactly what you like, and trace each one of these things is going to be a little bit tricky. And so, but you can do it. It just takes time. So if you pick up the spline tool and you just come up and begin to trace around something, you absolutely can do that. And you can do that in a relatively short amount of time, and then collect those vectors so that they turn the image into what it is that you're looking for. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this segment on working with graphics. Have a ball. This is where the real power and excitement is using VCarve. So I'll look forward to seeing you next time as we work with some new features on VCarve for profile toolpaths.